master your life the way an artist masters her skill. Become the maestro of who you were made to be and what you were meant to release in the world around you. That's what self-mastery means. If you clicked on this video, it is most likely because you find yourself somewhere on this personal growth spectrum. You're either right over here, you are a personal growth go-getter. You invest in yourself a lot. You take your personal growth and development super seriously. And you are like me, you're always looking for new points of view, new perspectives as you build your own world paradigm. So welcome if that's you. Or you might be somewhere closer to the other side of the extreme, which is just totally discouraged and defeated, feeling like super stuck in life, like nothing that you try to do to change actually sticks, actually works, actually gets you where you want to go. And if you're joining me today, then thanks for being here. You're so welcome. And I feel like what we're going to chat about today is going to be great for whoever you are, wherever you find yourself on your journey of life. So I want to talk to you about something that too few people talk about, and I think is one of the foundational reasons why so many of us miss the mark when it comes to creating sustainable change and transformation in our lives. I just want to add this little disclaimer, but I think part of the reason why women struggle so much with creating the change they say they want to see in their life is because we go about it from a very masculine approach. So we're trying to create change in our life from a very masculine approach, which means we're having to pull from that more masculine energy, which is very focused on results and outcomes and linear progression. And we're actually, in our essence, in our spirits, we can do it, but we're not wired to thrive that way. We don't flourish that way. We can force our way through life. We can grit our way through life that way. We can get it done, but it's not necessarily in a way that serves us or those around us best. So there's a totally different approach that we don't talk about a lot when it comes to taking a feminine approach to habit setting and goal setting and healing and transformation. The feminine energy is an energy of flow. It's an energy of process. Just think about it. The masculine energy is an energy of building, and the feminine energy is an energy of birthing. And a lot of us are trying to build what we were meant to birth. And we're not enjoying the process, and we can get overwhelmed. We can feel defeated and discouraged. We're getting maybe where we want to go, but we're doing it in a way that's not sustainable. So it's just exhausting to have to stay there all the time. So there's a lot more I could go into. I'm really passionate about this, obviously. So if you want more information, I would say go check out my blog or podcast, or even leave a comment below and let me know, and I can speak into this at a future date as well. Most of us can relate to doing what we don't want to do and not doing what we do want to do, whether it's, I don't want to yell at my kids anymore. I don't want to get so angry with my kids anymore. And yet, boom, 5 minutes later, you're raging at your kids. Or it's, I do want to go to the gym more often. I do want to move my body more. And yet you're still sitting on the couch scrolling through social media. Hello. At least you're consuming positive stuff, but you're still living a super sedentary life, even though you tell yourself you want to move more. I get it. I've been there. What I'm going to share with you today is so important. I cannot stress it enough. It is so foundational in living a life of personal development and progressing in life and growing in life. But it's also something that we don't talk much about. We will often talk about when it comes to goal setting or habit setting. We'll hear people give advice on like, get really clear about the vision. Like, what do you want that to look like? So we create vision boards and we do all the things, and I'm so for it. I do it myself. I think it's such an important step of the process. And we talk about that step of the process quite a bit. And it's that is the fun. That's like the fantasy part, that's the daydream part. That's where we're envisioning the version of ourselves that we're aspiring towards. And it just feels full of hope, and it's just invigorating, and it's fun. Then there's like the less fun part that we still talk about, which is like, okay, then you got to kind of make a plan, like how this is your goal. Then like, how are you going to get there? And we'll hear a lot about like smart goal setting. So just strategically going, okay, this is where I want to go, and then deconstructing, how do I get there? And that's not as fun, Some people don't. That's where some people drop out. They're great at creating the vision boards, but then like, or some people love, this was me for years. I love to make a plan. Oh, I love to make a plan, but following through with the plan, no. I would spend hours making a plan and then I would never look at the plan again. I would totally forget about the plan, and a year goes by and I'm still struggling with the same thing in the same way. There's another way. And I think it's because there's this base part, this starting point. I think setting the vision is so important. Creating a clear plan of action is so important. But there's this other key proponent to creating sustainable transformation in our lives that we overlook quite a bit, but it is imperative. And I think it's one of the reasons why so many of us get stuck, or so many of us start but don't sustain. And we overlook acknowledging our starting point. So last year I was on a trip to Ireland, and on one of the days I broke away from the group. There was a group of people that we were traveling together, and I broke away with the group with just one other girl. We decided we were going to go to a museum. So we walk all the way to this museum. We walk like an hour all the way to this museum. And we get there and the museum is shut, like overbooked. We had to get tickets online and we did not plan well. So we're like, that's okay. We'll just head back to the hotel. So neither of us had Wi-Fi or internet at this point, but I'm like, I have a really good sense of direction. So I'll get us there. It's totally fine. So we start making our way back to the hotel area where we came from, but we take a couple of detours along the line. Like we don't go back the way we came. And I'm in a place I've never been to before. So we could have gotten us back the way we came, but we broke off that path. And probably about 45 minutes to an hour of walking in, both of us kind of look at each other and we're like, I just have this feeling that maybe we're headed in the wrong direction, So we both pull out our little touristy maps. When you travel, you can go to the tourist booths and they have the maps of the city. So we pull out our maps of the city and we both look at the map and we go, this is where we need to get to. And this is where we were. But where are we? And this is kind of the approach that so many of us take when it comes to setting goals. We look at where we want to go. This is where I want to go. And look at all of these different ways that I can get there. And we might even create a plan. We might carve out the path that we think we should take to get us to this desired destination. But when we don't take into account, when we don't acknowledge our starting point, we can never get to where we want to go. I had that epiphany in Ireland. So thank you, Ireland, for that epiphany. I'm so thankful for it. Now, I want to just go a little sidebar with you for just a second, because this is part of it. Okay. I say this a lot. It's worth restating and restating and restating because I think it's both shocking and so hopeful all at the same time. But there's a study that was done, and 95% of Americans consider themselves to be self-aware, but only 10 to 15% of Americans truly are self-aware. And there's so much that we could unpack with this. But for the sake of time, I'm going to just say this. There are 7 layers, 7 levels, 7 phases of development when it comes to self-awareness. And the 7th, the highest phase of development when it comes to self-awareness is what they call self-mastery. Now, some people might not like that language. It might trigger them like, oh, I don't want to master myself, no, but just calm down. Okay. Because if you're a Bible girl, self-mastery could also be known as self-control. Another way to say self-mastery is self-control, and self-control is totally biblical. But then also when you do a word study on that original Greek word that is used for self-control, I'm not going to say it right now because I'd botch it, but when you do a word study on that word control, it's actually in power. So we actually are meant to live our lives in power, empowered. We are supposed to. There's something in us that longs for it, and it's because we were made for it. We were made to be the masters of our lives, and not in this like hedonistic way, not in this way of dominancy either. Okay. But when I say master your life, I mean master your life the way an artist masters her skill, become the maestro of who you were made to be and what you were meant to release in the world around you. That's what self-mastery means. So let's not get hung up on terminology. Let's really try to understand the meaning behind it. So the seventh level of self-awareness is this level of self-mastery where you are living in power. You are connected to your source, Holy Spirit, to God. You are flowing in who you were meant to be in the mandate on your life. You are flourishing. Highest level of self-awareness, living in power. Okay. Lowest level of self-awareness, level 1 self-awareness, you are living in survival mode or autopilot. A lot of people are living in survival mode or autopilot, but most people are living within 3 or 4. Level 3 of self-awareness is where we find desire without action. So this is where we want to change, but we don't have the follow through for it. We say we want to change things in our marriage. We say we want to change things in our parenting. We say we want to change things with our health. We say we want to change things with our spirituality. We say we want to change things with our mindsets. We say we have the desire. We have these aspirations for change, but we don't take action. We don't take sustainable action towards them. That's where the majority of the population is. And then there's also level 4 self-awareness. Level 4 self-awareness is where we actually can start getting a little bit more clear about ourselves. We can start seeing like, oh yeah, I acknowledge that I have anger issues. But we own our dysfunctions and limitations often as our identity. And so instead of going, oh, like I have this thing right here, I have a temper, not I am temperamental. It's, ooh, I've developed a temper. And to get to level 5, 6, and 7, I'm going to have to figure out how to release this temper because this temper keeps me out of my power. This temper does not allow me to become the maestro of my life. So that's where most people find themselves in, is where they're aspiring without action, or they're acknowledging limitations, but claiming them as their identity. So why do I bring any of this up? Why do I even bring up levels of awareness? Why am I talking about level 4, level 3 level of awareness? I'm bringing this up because a lot of our progression through the phases of development when it comes to our personal self-awareness is directly correlated to how honest we're willing to be with ourselves. We must be willing to become honest with ourselves and get comfortable with the discomfort that requires if we are to be able to acknowledge where we really are in life, the real condition, take an honest assessment without sugarcoating or minimizing or silver lining or dismissing. Take an honest evaluation, an honest assessment of where we are at and what we are capable of without fully imploding in guilt or shame or judgment, and just holding space, just observing. This is actually the true condition of my life. This is the true condition of my inner being. And this is the true condition of my outer world. And this is the reality of where I'm at. Only once we're able and willing to do that do we have any real change of genuine transformation. Because I'm going to say this, there's a difference between personal growth and transformation. A lot of people say they want transformation, but they're actually a lot more comfortable with growth because growth still has a measure of control. You have control over your growth. And growth ultimately, oftentimes, and I see this with the women that I serve, some women go for transformation, some women come for growth. And when they come for growth, transformation is like, I don't want to struggle with these things anymore. I want to evolve beyond them. I want to become new. Growth is, I want to develop better coping mechanisms for these issues that I have. I want to learn how to deal with these issues better. Personal growth, transformation. 2 different journeys. Now, we can't get to transformation without personal growth, but some people are content sticking to the personal growth path without progressing to total and complete transformation. When we become courageous enough, or for me, what it was I was desperate and I was devastated enough. And unfortunately, that's oftentimes the catalyst for genuine transformation. But when we become desperate enough, when we become devastated enough, or when we become dedicated enough, I mean, maybe we don't have to have our life in flames. Maybe we just wake up one day and go, you know what? I don't want to settle anymore. I've been settling and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to not settle. I don't want to settle for less. And we dedicate ourselves to learning to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. It allows us to become the observer and assess, okay, this is my starting point. And then from there, we can go, okay, this is my starting point. I acknowledge this is where I'm at. This is where I aspire towards. And then you can say, how do I get from here to there? And when you start making these little micro changes, because what happens a lot is we start the way we want to end. We hear a lot like begin with the end in mind. Yeah. But if you want to get to the gym 6 days a week for an hour every day, which that sounds like extreme, but maybe that's you, right? Or if you want to like stop yelling at your kids, but you're yelling at your kids 10 times a day, a realistic goal for you is not that you're not going to yell at your kids every day for the next week. That's not a realistic goal. But a realistic goal is I'm going to get curious about what's triggering me to yell. Like what is connected to this anger? Micro growth in self-awareness moment. Ooh, I just got mad at the kids. Normally I would just keep going on with my day, but I'm going to breathe. I'm going to check in and go, okay, what triggered that? What was that really about? And maybe instead of just blowing past it and going on with the day, we practice repair. And as we make these little micro changes, eventually they evolve and they compound and they lead to mega transformation. And it's not something that we're trying to white knuckle our way through. It's not a game of whack-a-mole where we're just standing over this field and this little mole is popping up and we're trying to whack it down every time it comes. Like we're actually learning to acknowledge things, explore them, discover how has this been serving me and how is it no longer serving me, and then learn how to truly release it, let it go, and make room for you to grow into your true essence, your more authentic self, and evolve into the version of you that is in her self-mastery, the version of you that is living in her power. So how do we do this? So glad you asked. Self-reflection is key. Self-reflection is key. And I know sometimes it takes work to get there. It's hard to sit and be still with yourself when being with yourself is the last place you want to be because you don't like what comes up when you're with you in silence and stillness. But I'm going to tell you, it is key. And I'm going to give you 3 questions that you can sit with yourself and answer. And here's the thing. There's no right or way wrong to answer this. There's only an honest or dishonest way. And honest and dishonest is a spectrum. It's not black or white. You could be 60% honest with yourself, or you could be 75% honest with yourself. I don't think any of us are being 100% honest with ourselves because I just don't think any of us are living with that level of self-awareness. I don't think any of us see ourselves that clearly, even though some might think they do. But I think be as honest as you are capable of in the space that you're in life right now, and answer the following questions. So the first question is, what choices, habits, or behaviors have brought me to where I am today, and how have they served me? How have they served me? You're probably going to think to yourself, they don't serve me. They do not serve me. That's not true. We don't do things unless we get something out of them. And oftentimes what is now draining you of life force once helped you survive something that you were struggling through. So I like to say that in childhood, we learn how to survive a lot of the time, or even in the world that we live in, we're really not taught to thrive. We're taught to survive. So we're really good at surviving. But if we want to grow into that level 7 self-mastery, living in power, living out our true essence, we have to shed all of the survival mechanisms that once kept us going and learn how to live in a way that allows us to flourish and flow. And it's a process, it's a journey, it's a practice. But asking yourself, how is this serving me? How is this serving me? Oh, I feel out of control. And when I get angry, boom, it gives me this instant, like I just feel like I'm in control again. I'm in control again. Okay, but what's that costing you? Second question, What are the costs of staying where I am versus the potential benefits of moving towards my desired outcome? How has this served me, but what is it costing me? And what are the benefits? If I risk letting this go, dealing with it and letting and releasing it, what do I potentially reap? What are the benefits on the other side of that as I begin to move towards my desired outcome? Maybe your desired outcome is that you don't scream at your kids. I'm using this one a lot because I just know a lot of women struggle with that. I mean, I have fur babies and it happens sometimes, so I feel like it's something that a lot of us can relate to. Or maybe you're yelling at people on the street of road rage, or if just internal frustration, passive aggressive anger. Like, we all have some of that somewhere in our lives, bitterness, frustration. Wanting to excavate that from our souls. That can be the goal. Like, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be an angry person. I don't want to be easily offended. I want to grow in patience and in long suffering and kindness. How do we get from here to there? Right? Well, how did you get here? How did you learn these coping mechanisms, and how did they serve you up until this point? But what are they now costing you? And what's on the other side of this desired outcome that you aspire towards? What's the benefit of that for you? And then the last question, and this is a really important one. This is the last question I'm going to leave you with, and then we're going to wrap it up, is what fears, beliefs, or uncertainties might be holding me back from fully embracing the change I desire, and how can I address them? So what are you afraid of? Well, if I stop yelling at my kids, they'll never listen to me, or, well, if I really lose the weight, I won't be safe anymore, right? So what are the layers? Excavate. What are the layers? Sit with yourself. I love to invite Holy Spirit into this because Holy Spirit knows everything. Holy Spirit is my teacher and counselor. Holy Spirit is beautiful to partner with when we're sitting in self-reflection, because Holy Spirit can really illuminate things that are in our blind spots. But also, it's great to go get counseling or coaching and bring somebody in, because we all have blind spots. And so if we don't know how to sit with ourselves and bring this stuff to the light, it's good to bring somebody into that process and help us learn how to do it for ourselves. So basically, my friend, one of the reasons why I think that a lot of us are not getting to where we want to go is because we're not being honest about where we are starting from. And it prevents us from being realistic with the plan that we come up with. And so the efforts that we put forth become unsustainable. That's it for today. I want you to remember that information without application does not create transformation. So take whatever struck you, stood out to you today, and go and integrate it. And the great next step to integrate this video is to sit with yourself and answer those 3 questions. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. This is the work that I help women do, and I'd be happy to help you if you feel like that would benefit you on your journey. Until next time, keep growing.